The only reason why I'm not reading these books is because I'm absolutely terrified. And when I said on this channel that I finished reading one of these books, well, I lied. Hi everyone, this is Mary, you're in Mary Reads. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be talking about my nonfiction reading plans. I've never talked about nonfiction on this channel before, but then somebody gave me an idea and I realized that I actually have a lot of nonfiction plans. I'm just not a huge nonfiction reader naturally, so these books rarely get on my reading list, but over the years, I collected a ginormous pile of books, nonfiction books that I want to read. So today we'll talk about them. But before we begin, please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel not to miss any future videos. Okay, so most of these books are going to be on history, not all of them. I'm actually going to start with the one that's not history. I honestly am not sure how to show you the pile of books that I have here. I'm just not going to be able to put it. I pick it up, it's like so huge and heavy, it's like right here. But basically, let's begin to make this file a little bit smaller and not to make this video like 5 hours long. The first book is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. I really wanted to read it. I remember the first time I saw it was in a bookstore. I got super excited and interested, but I didn't buy it because I thought that it's not going to be easy for me to read it in English. And then I saw that my husband actually has a copy. When we moved in together, I realized that he has this book. So I was extremely happy, and I've been trying to read it since 2021, but now it's 2025 and not even one page has been read. This book, as you have probably already understood, discusses a woman, what it is to be a woman in a Western society. It talks about inequality and otherness of a woman, and I think it's going to be an amazing read, especially now that we've made this video about feminism in books. If you haven't watched it yet, please do so. I think it's pretty cool. I started thinking about feminism, what it is, and what it is today, because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what it is. A lot of people have more conservative views on it. So what is it to be a feminist today? And I would love to read this book to kind of get into the question of feminism a little bit deeper. I'm sure that Simone de Beauvoir will be able to tell me a lot and give me a lot of insights. I don't like the word insight, but basically a lot of insights on what feminism and what a woman is. The next three books I'm going to show together because they need to be together. I have been trying to learn Russian history for a long time. I obviously learned it in school, but I honestly don't remember anything that came before Ivan the Terrible. Hopefully that is his name in English. And I get a slightly more idea of what's going on somewhere around Peter the Great. And I would really love to get deeper into Russian history and to actually understand it and be able to talk about it and see how my country developed and how we got to where we are today. And I have been postponing learning Russian history for a very long time, only because I always need structure when I'm learning, and I can't just pick a topic and start reading about it or learning about it. So I'm like, okay, so do I go from tribes that we had in Russia in different places, or do I go from the building of Moscow? Or do I start with Peter the Great, who basically connected Russia with Europe more, but then I'm missing so much? So I'm like, I was so confused. And at some point, my husband got pissed at me and he was like, okay, you know what? You just need to start. So he got me these three books by the same author. I've never heard of him before. He, I think, is an American author, and he's apparently really good. I think he won some book prizes for these books. One of these books, the thickest one, is on Peter the Great, and there is so much to learn here because Peter the Great was really great. Was he the kindest ruler? Was he the most fair one? No, but he was the one that really brought Russia onto the um, international arena, brought more European traditions and knowledge into Russia, and that was probably the biggest thing that happened around that time. So reading about Peter the Great is super important, and I love having this book. I also have the second one here is about Nicholas II. I always felt like he had such a miserable life and miserable rule. But when I started listening to lectures about him by this Russian history teacher and a historian, she said that he actually was not a very smart ruler. He did not listen to the nation. He did not listen to the people. And he thought that, well, it's going to resolve on its own somehow. So I want to know more. And I'm really happy that I have this book. And the last one, I'm super upset that it's in a different edition, but that's, the only thing that was available it's about Catherine the Great. And I feel like out of all Russian women rulers, she is the most influential one. There were multiple, I think there were three at least. And further back into Russian history, we had even more. But she is arguably the most influential one, and she did so much for the development of Russia, even though she was not Russian. I think she was German or Austrian, if I'm not mistaken. And she did so much for the development of Russia, for the development of hospitals, universities, schools, and she did a lot for women as well. So I'm extremely happy to be reading this book. And I'm really hoping that after I read these three, they will give me a better understanding of where to go next in learning Russian history. Now, another book on Russia is called A Window on Russia, and I haven't seen super amazing reviews of it. It has like 3.5, 3.7 stars on Goodreads or something like that, like some of the big websites. But I thought that it has a very interesting concept. So this book talks about Russian writers. So it's basically essays and thoughts of this man on Russian writers and Russian language. And I would love to learn more. In my opinion, the best books written about Russian literature are by Russian experts, literary experts, not because Russian people are better or something like that, but because they are reading in Russian. They were born in this culture and were able to understand the context, able to understand the circumstances of each one of these authors' development, because they come from the same country, they know the history, they know what was going on. I might be wrong, and I'm sure that there are amazing foreign writers and scientists who do an amazing job researching Russian literature, but I would love to read books by Russian authors. It's just that they're less accessible to me at the moment. One thing that I do want to say and encourage you to read if you ever find a translation or if you know Russian is to read diaries of people close to the authors. For example, if we're talking about Tolstoy, we have so many records from his kids, his friends. His wife wrote diaries about him and her life with him. And I would encourage you to read those because they give you an amazing understanding of the family, of the writer, of him, not just as a writer, but as a person. And that's something that I really want to get to reading one day. The next book, I showed it on this channel before, but I showed a different edition that I got from the library, but now we got our own. It's called 1177 BC, the year civilization collapsed. And this is a very interesting book. I can't wait to read it. My husband first showed it to me. He's a big nonfiction reader, and he was like, look, this is such a great book. I really want to read it. So we decided to finally get it. This book is about a group of people that are only known as sea peoples, and they invaded Egypt, which had an extremely strong army, which was super developed, and Egypt won in that war. But the Sea Peoples weakened Egypt so much that it started its decline. And nobody really knows who these Sea Peoples are, so the author is trying to get all the records that we have about them and to give us an idea of who these people were and where they might have been coming from. Of course, we might not get a concrete answer here, but we're going to get closer to understanding who these people are. And in general, history of ancient civilizations just interests me so much. It's such an amazing topic. It's such a mysterious topic for me. Just thinking that there was so much before us, even to the point where some ancient civilizations were talking about the elder times. And that means that we don't know so much that happened before. And there's one book that kind of correlates to the book that I just showed you. It's on ancient Egypt. I am so interested in ancient Egypt. Out of all the ancient civilizations, this is probably my favorite one, and I'm mostly curious about this one. So many myths, so many legends. I want to read about it. I want to know what legends are based on some real stories, what myths are just myths. How was this civilization so developed and so strong? It feels like ancient Egyptians had such a rich culture, probably one of the richest cultures ever. And I want to read about it. I want to know about it. And I haven't read any of the books yet. I've only listened to some lectures. So this book will be my first one, and it will be my introduction to my future learning of ancient Egyptian history. Now, one book that I'm not sure I will ever read in my life, and if I do, it will definitely not be in English, not ever, no matter how fluent I am. It's Karl Marx's Capital, because just look at this book. This is just volume 1, and it has over 1,000 pages. I have no idea how I would ever be able to read it in English. So maybe in Russian, and still I'm sure that it's going to be super hard and it will take me forever. Why I want to read it? First of all, I feel like such a big chapter of Russian history is based on this work. Lenin was so much influenced by this work, and a lot of Soviet beliefs are based on this book. In general, I think that this idea of Marx's is super curious. I would love to know more about it. And I just think that once I start learning more about Soviet Union, I will need this to back me up. Because when we studied Marx, we only talked about certain chapters or even certain paragraphs of this work. And I did not get a full picture. I really want to know more. When am I going to read this? I have no idea, because I know that it's going to take me forever. But I would love to at least start. I knew this was going to fall at some point. I literally knew that. Now, I live in the United States. I've lived here for the past 6 years, and I feel like I need to know more about it. I can't say that I was ever very interested with American history, but there are certain things that do interest me. For example, I'm absolutely mesmerized by 20th century New York, and I feel like I need to expand my interest. And one work that my husband recommended to me and that I really want to read one day is de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. So this book is the recollection of this French author, philosopher, after he came back to France from the US. And a lot of things that he saw felt weird to him, and he's kind of just reflecting on what he saw. And from what I have understood about this book, a lot of things here are going to be quite similar, democracy-wise, quite similar to what we see in the US now. And I want to read about his reflections on American democracy as a European and see if we still have something similar today in today's America. If maybe I, as a European, will also see something that works in Europe and makes sense in Europe, but here is super different, because I find a lot of things in the US weird, and I wonder if certain things will be explained in this book. So I honestly can't wait to read this book. I'm super excited about it, but it has over 800 pages and I'm terrified of taking it. I don't think this book is going to be extremely hard to read. I kind of skimmed through certain pages and it seems like I will be able to understand it, but I just feel like this book is not something you read on the train in the morning when you go to work, or you read for 30 minutes in the evening. That's something you need to sit down with. And I just don't know how much time I have to actually sit and spend with this book. The next book is our recent find, and I think I showed it in one of my recent vlogs, maybe the Reading in Spring vlog, I think that's where it was. So this is Letters from an American Farmer. This book basically talks about how American farmers lived. So a regular person, not some crazy job, not somebody who lives in a big city, just a farmer, just a regular American citizen. How do they live? What do they believe in? What did America look like back then? And here we're going to talk about different parts of America. It says here that we're going to talk about the America from New England and to Southern plantation culture. So I really want to know more, especially about the Southern plantation culture. And it also, interestingly enough, says here that this book was more popular in Europe than in the US, which I guess would make sense just because people who lived in the US already knew what was happening in the US and how regular US citizens lived. But I, as a person who learned very little about American history and American people's lives, am very excited about reading this book and getting an idea of what day-to-day life of an American citizen looked like. And finally, the book that I claimed that I read, but I actually have not. I only read the first chapter, and then I said that I read this book in full because I felt like I need to. I said that I started it, so I need to show that I finished it, which I am very embarrassed by. But this book is The Barbizon, about a hotel for women. I read the first chapter. I absolutely loved it, but then I read it alongside a fiction book, and so I kind of got more excited about my fiction novel, and I just put this aside and never picked it back up, so I will be starting over. Basically, this book talks about the first ever hotel solely for women, and very different women stayed there. Those who just came to New York and were looking for different opportunities, those who worked for magazines, models stayed there, writers stayed there, actors stayed there. The woman who survived in Titanic, I forgot her name for the death of me, I cannot remember it right now, but she stayed in this hotel as well. I actually wrote a note here that I started this book on May 22nd, 2024, so it's been over a year since I started this book and I have never finished it. So I really want to actually get to it and read it in full. These were all my nonfiction reading plans. I actually have a lot of other topics that I'm very interested in, like fashion, art, literature, and I just never get to nonfiction books. So maybe one day I will get used to reading nonfiction. Or if you are interested, maybe we could choose a nonfiction book and read it together so that you can hold me accountable, and that so I have more motivation to start reading a nonfiction book, and we can have a discussion at some point. Let me know if that's something you would be interested in, and if you have any ideas on how to make that work. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what nonfiction books you are reading or planning on reading, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.